The psychological operation going on regarding this shooting in Florida is in full swing now. They have gotten everyone into two different emotional camps now, and everyone has left their thought-based processed for going through and absorbing information. It's all absorbed through the emotion side now. And that's all they need. Now they can pretty much write anything about it, and everybody will then project upon what they're reading what agrees with the emotional state they're in at the time. And I'm going to show you this from a thought-based perspective. Two different articles talking about the exact same thing regarding the shooting that argue two different points, but nobody is seeing it. First, we'll start over here. This is the Washington Post, and of course you're going to make the assumption that they're going to have a bit of a more liberal take on it, more of a gun-focused take on it. But if you read for content, and just read for content, it talks about a kid that had these problems going back years and years and years, that the community was aware of, that the school system was aware of, the law enforcement was aware of, friends were aware of, and it goes through a laundry list here of different things that had happened. Teachers were concerned. Looking in his eyes, there was a problem. Every once in a while, he would just spew something out of his mouth that was inappropriate. Long string of escalating disciplinary measures. Insubordination, disruption, fighting, assault. And they pretty much give the kids a synopsis of the kid's history here, and all of the different things that were done, and how it was supposedly leading to a crescendo, and that they have moved him out of one home and into another, out of one school and into another. But they're not making the allegation he slipped through the cracks. In fact, they're making quite the opposite argument here, that the community down there was very aware of this problem with this kid. He was no stranger. And that's pretty much what this article here is about in the Post. Now, what nobody has seen, or at least I've not seen anyone address this problem after reading this, is how it completely argues with the story on the ground. Actually, in Florida. This is the Orlando Sun-Sentinel. And this is the interview. We covered this in another video, where they talk about this these parents who were just stunned. Everything everybody seems to know, we didn't know. It's as simple as that. And they let this kid have a gun. And I shouldn't say that. He had a gun already with him when he moved into the home. You have to ask yourself a question. Now, I know this is Florida, and they pretty much issue weapons at birth down here, and I think to even make it into preschool, you have to qualify at least marksman on the range. But this kid would not have been able to have this weapon in foster homes or in places. This would have been something where people were having to hide this issue for him. It wouldn't have been... We have something down here called the Baker Act, where you can pretty much just have a park ranger say that I believe this person here is a danger to themselves or others, and they can commit you and, you know, remove your ability to make decisions for yourself. The only two states in the union that have laws like this are California and Florida, and it's Proposition something or other out there, but it's the same thing. It's a little bit frightening, really, how easy it is to remove these types of things from people down here. You know, he talks about rules and how he had this weapon, and we covered this in another video. But here, it's this giant shock. Over here, it's like, wow, we just can't believe this happened, and how could this be? And this kid was blah, 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 blah. Just, you know, so, you know, just a decent kid, and it's just a total shock that he would do this. No one has even bothered to ask the question publicly. Okay, fantastic, wonderful. Got an AR-15. Got it at home in a gun closet. That's fine. Where did he get the money for all of the ammunition? Where did he go buy these countless magazines? Okay, they said he took an Uber. Okay, you're telling me this kid showed up in the Uber driver, and I am one. Okay, I go out here, St. Augustine, Florida, and on weekends it's actually pretty good money. But if some kid would come ambling up carrying an AR-15 and a whole bunch of, I mean, even if it's a gym bag or backpack full of magazines, said, hey, take me to the local high school, I would be like, yep, well, yeah, that's exactly where we're going. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. Are you out of your mind? I don't care who the Uber driver is. There's no way he's letting some random kid get in, you know, looking like he's... It just doesn't make any sense. But when you look at everything emotionally and you don't look at anything for content, then you'll miss it. You'll absolutely miss what happened here. That there's no possible way he was the one that got the weapons there. He was not... Oh, and then, of course, he then has all the magazines and he has whatever, and then he just gets out at the school system. Anybody ever try to go up to a high school and just walk in? Any high school? Or middle school down here? Even some of the ones in the more safer areas. You know, I get requested out there to pick up, you know, kids to take them home or whatever. And if they're not outside, they're not... You can't just go up there and just go amble in and start walking around the hallways looking for them. How did this kid get in? You know, nobody is looking at the nuts and the bolts of this and going through this. Like, okay, how did he get from here to here? How did he get from there to there? How did nobody see this? How did nobody see that? No, nobody's talking about any of it. All they're talking about is the emotionalism of it all. And how, you know, made these texts from the Uber. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And nobody, and I think I might be the only one that's talked about this money angle. Cruz thought the family friend in Lantana was stealing money from him, but the Sneeds suspect she was innocent and was just a victim of common identity theft. They reported about almost $3,000 in fraudulent charges on his debit or credit card. This kid who was standing in just a couple of years to inherit $800,000. $800,000. And you're saying this kid's just going to piss all that away. To an 18-year-old, $8,000 is life-changing money. $800,000? I mean, that would be probably life-changing money to anybody. But, and then you know what? Hey, you know what? Great. All I got to do is just march for 3 years, and my life's going to be set. Especially down here in Florida. You know, it's like all this beach property, and, you know, he would have had girls never ending and nice cars and all this stuff. And, oh, it's just, I mean, but that's the thing. You get caught up in the emotionalism of everything and you don't see what's happened. But I'll tell you what did happen and that nobody's talking about. It was like, oh, you know, it's because what you've been investigating. Really? So I just decided to make up that and that. Some random kid decided to cover all of his face in black and red, in black and in red, in black and in red, and not any other color. And I made up the fact that, of course, they're operating in southern Florida and have been for 10 years, and that the FBI just broke up a giant ring of these guys connected to Hezbollah. And that these guys, over the last months, have decided to go completely ballistic with their activities all around Latin America because of the upcoming elections. It's just, and nobody's talking about it. In fact, even the Colombians are starting to see this now. That the place is ready to explode down there. It is on the brink. It is absolutely on the brink down there. And it's not, you can't find an article. I got to dig. And I know where to look to find these articles. Talking about the ELN infiltrating. And this is a connection I've been waiting for a long time. This wouldn't mean anything to you if you didn't know what the ELN was and why this was such a watershed moment. the ELN classically was a Colombian organization. The ELN, the FARC. But now, what this article here shows is that they've just picked up a member of the Venezuelan military who was a member of the ELN. What does this show? Clearly, they'll infiltrate any organization to effect change. And is Hezbollah down there? Yes. Is Hezbollah part of this? Yes. And is Hezbollah here? Yes. And then we have this unexplained attack. You know, and I've seen this thing about that Munder did about the drain the swamp thing with Marjorie Stoneman. Could be. It could very well be. The things, my allegation and that allegation doesn't, it's not mutually exclusive. You know, the reason they targeted this school. You know, because she would have been just as, I mean, they're just as upset with the leadership of this country, which I made that allegation a long time ago, that they would do anything to attack this guy who's in office right now. Because they perceive him as seeing them as second-class citizens, as not worthy. Whether that's true or not, that's the perception. And perception is everything. That's how they perceive him in Latin America. And the woman was a feminist, and they don't like that. And the whole drain the swamp thing could have been just a place where all of these opportunities met in one place, and they had a kid who had access to apparently at least one weapon, who was easily influenced and would give them cover, who apparently had access to money, or was going to have access to money. And I think you really need to think about that from this kid's perspective. If this really just only came from this kid, you know, he wasn't 14, he was 19. And kids that age, you know, they emulate. I read the thing about him, swastikas. Maybe at some time he was trying to emulate that group. But I'm telling you, when you look at this, and here's where this kid allegedly had all these problems. And it was well known to the school systems. But they put him on the rifle team. And this is Japan Times, which is odd, but it's for content. And it's just ever so strangely that the retired Army major that was in charge of the program where they were teaching this kid how to shoot is Iranian. Iranian American, whatever you want to call him. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. You put enough of these puzzle pieces together and you detract from the emotion, and you subtract the emotion away from it, you see. You can see, but you have to take the emotion away from it on both sides. You can't be looking at this as oh, here comes the government for our guns again argument. Because if that was really the case with all these shootings, that this was just some operation that the government was running to get our guns, it's been an epic failure. Every single one of them has been an epic failure. In fact, more guns were bought and registered in the last 8 years of administration than in the previous 8 years. So if they were supposed to be gun grabs, they completely were miserable failures. Every single one of them, including this one. I mean, I suppose we have to wait to see what the current administration does, but my guess is it's going to fail just like the rest of them did. Nobody confiscated anything, going all the way back to Columbine. Even with this last thing with Vegas. And that's another interesting thing, too. That guy was flush with cash as well. So the money angle, I think, is a big angle. It really is. At least in these two cases. Find out where that money went. But, yeah, here's this. I mean, and you can read this for yourself. This is Sun Sentinel where they talk about this. About the $800,000 and the $3,000 in missing money. Now this kid would have been set. He would have just absolutely been set. All he had to do was just basically hang out and wait until he was, honestly, 22 years old. He's 19, 3 years. He could have done anything for that 3 years. Had a free place to stay. Something else was going on. Something else was going on. So, I'll leave it there. I'll let you guys make the decisions for yourself, but I'm telling you, this kid had people handling him. Like, share, subscribe.